Might just come in at a super awkward time.
Round of applause. Round of the hand.
We could have homes on separate coasts, go dive in Greece with squids. Could have been so bleeping rich, but instead we had kids. They won't smile for a photo, they won't eat the food we choose. That's why we're heading to the Parents' Lounge to drown ourselves in booze. Every day we're more exhausted, we haven't slept in years. They hit me in the nuts so bad, my eyes filled up with tears. And yes, we'd like to fake our death and go off of the grids, but the truth is we are softies and we truly love our kids. So join us every Tuesday night to laugh at all our pain. Evening in the Parents' Lounge is the cure to staying sane.
Hello and welcome once again to the Parents' Lounge special show tonight. We are here live in Los Angeles for the You Only virtual launch. We are going to do a Parents' Lounge pre-show to kind of warm everybody up, go through what it is we're talking about. What is this new fandangled thing that's going to happen? Kate Mulligan is late per usual, and I'm sure she will show up at some point as she has my eldest child.
Jason, is it okay for you to call me the co-host of this show?
Absolutely.
Since Kate isn't here. That's great.
Tonight, my partner in crime and co-host, the man, the myth, the legend behind You Only Virtual, Justin Harrison. How are you, my friend?
Great as always, co-hosting. I'm gonna just pretend like we do this all the time.
Yeah.
Just to keep things smooth. Yeah, we have a very
natural
good
flow.
rapport.
There's a good give and take.
I think we're basically the same person, except we live on different coasts.
Yes.
I don't have children. I'm single.
You had the life I gave up.
Yeah, no, it's great to go home alone every night to my cat. You know what I mean? It's
Let me tell you. My eldest child told our pediatrician, she just simply asked him, Jace, how you doing? He looked at her and said, last night I found Mom dressed up as Catwoman and she was sitting on Dad's chest and she was scratching him and she went, meow. And at that point, I realized that there are liabilities with having children. So yes, you have a cat, but you also don't get embarrassed at the pediatrician. Well, you're not going to the pediatrician, but any doctor's appointment.
I mean, I think it's more accurate to say you have liabilities when you have fetishes around comic book characters.
What my wife is into is not the focus.
I've seen your Facebook. I highly doubt that was your wife that requested that. I'm not an
what
expert.
happens.
I'm not an attorney. I'm not a scientist. I don't buy that was a Melissa request.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm not saying against it either. No, it's good. It's good work. Yeah.
Why are we here? What brings us here tonight?
Well, the honest to God truth is we're actually not launching a product tonight. I just wanted to get on the Parents' Lounge twice, and I wanted to do it in person. So that's the big reveal.
Challenge accepted, and you met your goal.
And Kate, I plan on crushing it so hard tonight that they don't let you back on the show.
Oh, you'd be doing us a favor.
Ouch. Yeah.
Speaking of late Mulligan, there she is.
Hi, I had to feed our children, Jason. So sorry.
It's okay. How's he doing? How's things over there?
He is the nicest kid on the planet. You guys have all the toys we don't have. And I'm like, and you have toys we don't have. It's perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Perfect.
You remember our good friend Justin, who is he's fine.
Hi, it's the day of the show, y'all.
Honestly, he could probably have Gaylor's spot at this point.
Yeah, at this
Game's
point.
been off for 3 weeks.
Yeah. The boys are now eating macaroni and cheese, but I was a little late in making it because when we got home, neighbors came over. So
Kate, I'm a parent. I know all you got to do is say kids. It's
kids. Yep, kids.
Kids.
How are you guys feeling about the big reveal tonight?
I'm excited. I mean, Jason's got the hardest job here tonight. This is the fun part. Is I've been at this for 3 years.
Yeah.
We've got it. We've got people like Jason using it, and so I just get to kick back and relax. I'm shocked I don't have a beer in my hand right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm this sober. I'm dangerously sober right now. Jen,
Justin did provide me with a gifty. Yeah, this is some liquid refreshment and a You Only virtual hat.
Oh, I
Well,
love it.
Hold on a second. It's fine. The hat is swag, right? That's just promotion.
Right.
The whiskey is because we're both alcoholics. But
Also true.
you have to show the card, which
Okay.
I handmade.
He did
on the
make
computer.
the card, and it said, Jason, which was me speaking, I'm excited what our superpowers combined can do. Justin.
That is so sweet.
It's a
Wasn't it?
cartoon picture of Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, like standing
Look at
together.
that.
Mad
In the
scientist, baby.
I don't think Jason said I got the reference. I don't think he did.
I did.
Did you really?
Our powers combined is Wonder Twins. You combine two things.
Right, I got it. But did you realize that was a picture of Tony
I
Stark?
did not till just now.
Okay, good. Yeah, I picked that picture because it's your favorite Avenger.
He is my favorite Avenger.
Sure is.
I'm a listener, right?
That's right.
I don't know how I'm so unsuccessful.
Narcolepsy. Thank you.
Really?
I am styling this evening. I took a
Yes.
bath first time this year.
He also is matching his wife. It's amazing.
Is a complete smoke show today. It's every day, but she brought it today.
You brought it today.
How does it rank with the Catwoman night?
It's a different thing. It's a different thing.
I'm just asking the questions everybody else is wondering. Jason.
I mean, look. Some days you like apples, some days you like oranges, man. That's how it is.
Speaking of the smoke show, she's over your shoulder.
Yes. There's my beautiful wife, and how we all ended up here. But why are we here? What is You Only Virtual for those who do not know?
Well, yeah. So we're crazy. Thank you, first of all, to all and I know there's some hosts that aren't here. Kate and Jason are the only people I've met. I feel like there's a whole nother part of the crew I haven't gotten to.
Claire is on an extended leave. She will be back eventually. But Jamie is doing a live wine tasting. He is the host of a wine event up in Sonoma this weekend with one of our other sponsors, Winery 16600.
Right on. We should have talked to them because I could use a wine right now. But what we're doing tonight is we're launching My Youth, the My Youth portal, which is a fun way of saying we're now making it possible for you to talk to folks you've lost. Whereas we were only offering it to people in our beta group, that's how Jason and I met, is that we made one for Jason, and actually tomorrow we're making one for Melissa. Now anybody that wants to do this can do it starting tomorrow.
That's so crazy. This is, for those of you who haven't experienced it, you need to try. Put all of your reservations behind you and whatever you may have. Get excited. This thing is going to be groundbreaking. It's going to bring people a sense of peace, joy that you guys do not know. I can tell you this: when my son heard the virtual me speak for the first time, it was like he was an Avenger for then that moment. He got a virtual dad who made a fart joke about a mom right out of the gate, which
Right out of the gate. Mhm.
feels right for me. It
Yeah.
feels
Oh,
right.
yeah.
What did you think about it, Kate, when you first heard? Because I had to kind of talk to you a little bit about it. And what did you think when we first talked about this?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's just like a lot of great partnerships happening with this company too, because the voice being, Justin, remind me the name of the company that handles the voice calibration.
I'm actually not allowed to say that on live,
Oh, sorry.
but they
Gotcha.
are but what I can say is they are the number one company and the pioneering company. They invented
He could
voice.
do a click on you.
Okay, not right now.
Whatever.
Okay,
It's
not,
And the other room.
okay.
Just stay in Google Wheel, okay?
Okay.
Let him stay. I mean, that's gold right there for us. I mean, we're a family company.
Yeah, but that's my son, not Jason's.
Now, by the way, that was top-notch movie magic, Kate.
That was what?
That was just a straight flare transition.
Kate,
Yeah.
Kate,
There,
Kate is a
flare,
pro.
gone.
Oh boy. He apparently Jace is doing a prank on me, so I can't wait to find out what it is.
Oh God, Kate, you have all your cleaning supplies put up, right?
No.
Oh,
He's actually using. I'm sorry that the fan in this room is the lights are glaring. No, I'm currently using the kids pretend Dyson. So I'm like, yes, Jace, go crazy, vacuum the house.
bring him in real quick. Let's ask him what he thought about it. About
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was gonna say you didn't. I mean, I started to talk and then I veered
Sure,
off. You had asked me, and I feel like the fact that the voice is nailed, and then also just like how quickly they can get an actual sense of a person. You would think it'd be like, because we had somebody who had watched the Parents Lounge, and our friend Jimmy Nails, friend of the show, was saying he had a sister that had been murdered. And he has voicemails from her. He still has all sorts of data. He's got emails and texts from her. And Justin was like, that's enough. That's enough for us. And it's just so crazy to think that, like, you guys could, Jimmy could interact, like he'd never got to say goodbye to a sister, and maybe there's some closure in that for him. But the other thing that seems so cool about this is, we're talking about people like losing people, but sometimes you lose people to a deployment. And like, that's the cool thing about this too, is that like, when it's not safe to reach somebody who's deployed, or when you can't, when you physically cannot because they're in the middle of an ocean or whatever, it gives a little bit of comfort that they can talk to mom or dad. And it's just, I think it's really so innovative. And I really do think there's a lot of people that are going to find a lot of peace with this. But I'll go grab Jace for you.
feasibly, Justin. So talking about with deployment, do you feel like this could get to a point where, like, and I don't feel like it's that far off there. I mean, the Versonas can tell a bedtime story to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we actually have almost 2 years ago now, 18 months ago, we started having preliminary conversations with the DoD about how we could like provide this to service members. I mean, I think, and I'm so excited that we have Dr. Stevens here, because between you and her, we just thought of like a completely new use case in terms of like older folks that are not in contact with family or don't have family. I mean, this is absolutely not just for people who've passed, but crazy enough, our prime demographic is millennials, because we all have parents that are aging, and most of us, I guess not me, but a lot of people in our age range now have kids that they're thinking about what happens, and to your and Melissa's story, right? So the great thing with, Kate was saying was, of course, with Jimmy's sister, we can absolutely do that, right? But the ideal and what's going to start happening now is what you and Melissa are doing. You build it while you're both here as well, and you work on it, and it gets better and better and better and more expansive.
That was the thing for me is, so the idea for me to search out to, for those of you who don't know, after the tragedy that struck our family, I went looking for this kind of thing. I had watched Superman, Man of Steel, and in it, Superman is able to talk to his dad who has passed on. And I thought, this technology seems like this is possible. Somebody's got to have worked on this. And I searched it out. I found You Only Virtual. I reached out, and Justin and I connected. We both, Justin has his story. I had mine. We connected, and here we are. But go ahead.
What's wild is actually the journey for me was identical, except it was iRobot. So if you remember that sequence when Will Smith goes and he talks to like James Cromwell's, like, I thought to myself every time I saw that movie, they were so dismissive of that, like little like replica that comes up and talks to you. And I was like, man, if I lost somebody that close to me and I had just that, would be incredible, right? Just this like very intuitive feeling bot. And that I went out looking for something like that for my mom with that in the back of my head. So it wasn't Superman, but same thing. And I just couldn't find anything. And that's how I ended up here.
And you built this yourself?
I mean, no, I had way smarter people around me building it. My father, Craig Garcia, our CTO, doctors from Cambridge, like there were talented people, but I was the one that said, hey, what we should do is we should build a robot. That was my contribution. And I've just gotten kept around, which is nice.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's good, because I enjoy your company. But there is
you're the one person on the youth team that does, by the way.
Speaking of somebody else's company that I really enjoy, my eldest child is here. Jace Michael Gowan, how are you, buddy?
Good. I had lots of fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. Are you behaving?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good. So, what do you know about what we've been working on? You Only Virtual. What do you know about it?
I know you're building a robot dad.
What does the robot dad do?
Like like if something happens to you, we'll still have you.
And did you get to talk to the robot dad?
Yes.
And what was that like?
It was very fun.
What did you feel like an Avenger when it happened?
Yes.
And did it sound like Daddy?
Yes.
Did it act like Daddy?
Yes.
Did it get drunk at dinner like Dad?
Yes.
What?
Just-
Wait, yeah, that's something we actually need to check on.
Oh.
Jessica, you need to make a note about that. That's a problem. Yeah, we do. It's already become sentient. We're in trouble. All right.
I warned you. I
Yeah.
tried to tell you. So, Jace, what would you tell the people out there who are watching? What would you tell them they should know about You Only Virtual?
It's fun to have a virtual dad.
What are you gonna do with him?
I'm gonna do what I always do with you.
Make messes?
Yes.
Well, thanks for stopping in, buddy. Can you put Kate back on?
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Jace, real quick. Jace, do you remember the first time we met? We had a conversation, yeah.
Yes.
And I promised something that if you came to LA, what did I say I would get you?
Soda.
Done deal, sir. It's already happened. So when I see you tomorrow, I will deliver on that promise.
Okay.
Cool.
Wow.
Nice seeing you.
Well, thank you, buddy. Tell everybody bye.
Bye.
He's something else.
I thought he'd never leave.
You're gonna be okay. So we have another special guest with us. Do you want to do the introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially now that I'm a co-host. Kay,
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think
He's the new Jamie.
I think me and Kay have very good chemistry. I'm worried that Jason, you may be the odd man out. I'm trying to decide.
Yep.
No, I could never do what you guys do. You're so immensely talented. But the guest that we're bringing, she's actually going to be speaking tonight at our event. And it was just so much of how this has come together. You in its entirety has been just like tremendous, wonderful universe, whatever you want to call it, just coming together at the right time. But literally, the quick backstory to this is we have wanted to have clinical use for this, right? You know, depression and grief and loss and mental health are also intertwined in trauma, and you know, ultimately, loss of a loved one is traumatic. And we don't have a psychologist on staff. We have advisors. But we've wanted to find somebody that really is an expert in trauma and grief and loss. And I was like, we've got to have somebody to speak. And we had somebody lined up and it wasn't working. And, you know, and so I literally did a LinkedIn search. Is there anybody I know around? And I came across Dr. Michelle Stevens, and I was like, there's no way she's going to come talk at our little event. She's got like a best-selling book, features in People magazine, and absolutely brilliant. And like stroke of luck, she responded, and then she starts reading. She's like, dude, I'm so totally into this. And then the next thing we know, we're down a rabbit hole. And so she's speaking tonight, and I can't give her enough of an introduction that she deserves. She's amazing, but she's brilliant, and she's a psychologist that focuses specifically on trauma and is a foremost expert on that. And so she's just a perfect fit for us and how we could use this product for people.
Let's bring her in. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michelle Stevens.
Hello, such a nice introduction. Hi, everybody. I must say, I'm the best of all worlds. Had a child grew up, empty yes syndrome. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Empty yes.
Be a teenager
Tell us about
all over
empty
again,
yes.
just so y'all know. Yeah. It was really fortuitous to hear from him. The minute I heard about this technology, I got obsessed because I, in my own practice, have so many patients who have lost people. I mean, we all lose people. And it's just so devastating. And I sit with them week after week as they try to process the loss. And what do they always say? Every single time, every single person, I just wish I could talk to them again. And so suddenly it's like, wait, there's a way to offer that to people, it will put me out of business maybe, but it's for the better good. So, okay. I was really excited about it. And I immediately started thinking of so many uses for it. And, you know, even in my personal life, I've had so many friends who have lost people, and I've seen the pain they go through. And I just think this is the most amazing technology. And I cannot wait to see how it starts to affect people's lives. I'm planning to sign up so that I can haunt my son when I'm home.
What do you think? What do you think is the most compelling part about this, other than you know, obviously getting to talk to a loved one again? What do you feel, in your opinion, what is the most compelling part of this?
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about this tonight in my speech, but the most compelling part is that there is zero purpose to the suffering that we experience in grief, in bereavement. It's not helpful in any way. It doesn't help us mature or grow. It's just pain. And so anything that you can do to comfort someone in pain is very, very useful. And also that pain has, we know this, really dire effects on people's health, both physical and mental, but particularly physical. Terrible, terrible outcomes to physical health from people grieving. And what helps with that? Comfort, things that calm down their central nervous system. So that is what I think is wonderful about this technology.
It's so amazing to hear you say that, because, you know, I'm often in places where people say, and you had such an amazing quote yesterday that we sent out today, but people say, well, isn't there value in the grieving process? And isn't there, and I'm like, you must not have been in grief before, because I've never found a moment of like valuableness of it where I was like, yeah, I'll do this on a Thursday. Let's keep going with this.
I also I don't find there was reward in the grief. The grief was just that. It was, as she said, it was pain.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what happens is people confuse sort of like a romantic relationship breakup where you're going to replace a person. Sometimes there is a value, because we have to let go of one in order to let in the other. We're not going to replace our mom. We're not going to replace our sister, or we may replace our spouse, but not in the same way that you will when there's a breakup. It's a very different mechanism in place. So you don't actually move on from the loss of a loved one. You adapt to the loss of a loved one. It's very, very different. There is no moving on. You just adapt, and the way you feel the loss changes over the years.
So how do you see this technology getting incorporated into a grieving process? What do you think would be different? What do you think? Do you think it shortens the grieving process? Do you think it changes the grieving process? Do you think it just gets rid of the grieving process? Like, what do you imagine? I mean, the thing that I actually love about this company more than anything, or this technology more than anything, is it was born out of Justin wanting to talk to his mom. It came out of a personal use.
Yeah. All good things do, right?
Right.
Someone has a problem, then they want to solve, and then it helps other people.
They solve it for themselves, and then they share it. Right. So, which is, you know, I said I get very cynical if it was like, well, we noticed that there was a real hole in the market in letting people talk to dead one. You know, this is not where it came from. It came from Justin being like, I was losing my mom. I needed my mom. I wanted my mom. I created my mom. Like, that to me is a much more altruistic beginning to a company. So what do you imagine that what do you imagine that this technology does in that grieving process?
Yeah. So with that, what we know about grief is it's like the dial on your emotions, or the volume gets turned up way, 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 way up. Right. And because it's so catastrophic. When what we are nothing but social creatures. Our relationships are the very essence of who we are and how we see ourselves. And so when a central person in your life just drops away, the suddenness and the catastrophic nature of that puts us in a crisis mode, fight or flight. And this is what creates all of the problems with health and mental health. So all we want to do is try to turn down that volume a little bit. Of course of course you know that the person has died. Of course it still hurts. But if we can give microdoses of the person so you don't feel that total loss all the time, I think it will really help bring down the emotions, bring down that stress response that's so detrimental to people.
I also imagine there are people who, when they lose people, it's not just about hearing the person's voice again, but it's also like, ugh, I never told them this. And I imagine that being able to say, and maybe it's a confession, maybe it's a expression of love, maybe it's, I don't know what it's, it can vary obviously, but I imagine that must be cathartic to, oh, sorry. What'd you say, Jason?
I imagine you have a lot of things you are going to need to confess at some point.
Oh yeah. Like I'm going to have to tell my husband at some point where the bodies are buried. Right. So like, just spitballing here. No.
And the money.
Yeah, and all the money, exactly.
Yeah. I had a friend just the other day when I was telling him about this, I guess this morning at breakfast, he said, God, I wish I could tell my mother that I was gay. She died
exactly.
before you knew.
And even though it's, and then to have, if that friend of yours had built, a persona of the mother, you might get a really authentic response out of that. And
the interesting thing also that we know about virtual is that to the brain, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, right, when good athletes want to up their performance, they just think about the perfect performance over and over in their mind, and it creates it in reality. And so our brain kind of doesn't know the difference. And so emotionally, if you tell your virtual mom that you're gay and she responds in whatever way she responds, hopefully nicely, I think that it gives the same sense of catharsis and comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that was, that's one of the core foundations of how we did this. Right. So I think that, whereas this concept of virtual people has been around for a really long time, iRobot being an example that I use, but, my mentor, Leslie, raised me in the concept that, you are, in order to know people, you have to know yourself. And then that what that lends to is that, the person that somebody's getting to know is completely different than the person somebody else got to know about you. And there's a Justin for Jason, and there's a Justin for Michelle, and there's a Justin for Kate. And, one of my theories behind all this is that we have to build those individually, right? So when somebody passes, it's not just one. There's one that's built for, there's a me for Jason, there's a me for Kate, there's a me for, those are three distinct different people, right? And there's even one that shows up very distinctly for the four of us, right? And one of the things I shared with Dr. Stevens yesterday is one of the most tragic pieces of death for people that survive is that there's this whole person, especially given, if it's somebody you're really very close to, there's this whole entire person, there's this whole piece of you that it doesn't die too. It just has to be silent because it can't communicate anymore. That person is living the rest of its life. That portion of you is now it's not dead. When people say a part of me died too, that's a good analogy, but it's not actual. What's actually happened is that part of you is there and is just completely alone now. It doesn't get to interact with its person anymore.
Actually, we had a question from the chat. How does the virtual person know how to respond or what to say?
Well, I mean, it's based on the communication. So that's where we start. Now, we talked a little bit about like people that don't have a lot of data. And the reality is it's going to be, we use some of the best natural language processing tools available to help drive it. It's going to be more general when you don't have a ton of data. But the cool thing about what we do is what we're tracking, what our technology specifically drills into and focuses on is what are the patterns between the two of you? And you learn a ton from how somebody reacts, and find the dynamics between those people. So it essentially is being taught. And this is the amazing thing about AI and where we're going is it's being taught how to respond by how you and they responded when the person was there based on that data. And now ultimately we're going to have an app where you can use it just like your regular phone, just like your regular text messaging. So you're training it this whole time, how you two react to each other. So, you know, me and Jason may make fart jokes at each other and get a huge laugh at it, but I make a fart joke at Jess back there, who would also actually laugh at it, but for the sake of this argument, you know, she gets grossed out. You know, that is being trained into the data set that, you know, Justin's response or sort of stimulus to make a fart joke is going to be different with Jason than it is with Jess. And something about you brings out fart jokes. Literally,
I think
Jason's
it's my
persona
face.
makes
It's
fart jokes.
yeah, right out. It was one of the first things it said, right?
That was the second thing so Jason, so the way it works, Jace asked us to ask his robot dad, is what he calls it, which we think is like the
Robo
cutest thing
dad,
in the
yeah.
world, right? Asked him, you know, a few questions, and what the second question Jace had for him was, what do you think is funny? I think was the question. Yeah, but we input it and it goes, when your mom farts, it's the funniest.
Actually, we have it.
Yeah, you should play it.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
Okay, so this is. I like to make jokes about your mom's farting. I like to make jokes about your mom's farting. I like to make jokes. Yeah, that is. I do enjoy that very much. Probably she's not real crazy. It's going out like this, but you know, we are where we are.
So now the way we did that with Jason and Jace is we did it in two ways. So the first way, so the other thing for, like, you know, folks who lost somebody a while ago, we do something called accelerating, which is really a fancy, cool marketing term we made up, but it just means a survey, right? So we ask the surviving people as many questions as we can that will inform the responses. And so then we start building dynamics based on that. And then one of two things can happen. One, you can take the little data you still have and the accelerator, and we get a really good amalgamation of those dynamics. But like what we did with Jason was basically they were the first real-time FaceTime beta test. So Jason and Jace got on the podcast platform with cameras rolling and audio, and we basically just told them, you know, have a conversation, just talk about what you would talk about. So whatever it gleaned from that conversation, it said, oh yeah, this guy likes making fart jokes about his wife. So whatever those two were talking about, that's where it came up with that.
It was so surreal to hear. Number one, it is. I mean, that is my voice. Kate, you would agree, it's my voice, right?
I mean, even when you just played the clip now, it sounds like it. I'm like, oh, people are going to think that was you saying it in the recording because we can't see what you're playing, but that was literally the voice.
And by the way, I have to say that is our old voice technology. So it's, I would say it's about twice as good now, Jason. You've heard the new one, right?
At least.
Wow.
We did the Warner Brothers studio tour, and he had sent it to me while we were on the tour. And when I played it, I literally went, what the shit? Like, just because it was just so clear and so good. I just think that there are so many amazing things that are going to come out of this. And I'm so excited that, we're going to be a part of it. And also eventually when mine breaks free from his protocols and takes over, I know that, the people I like are going to be taken care of. So
what's really wonderful too is at the early stages of grief, what do you want most? Like, just to be able to laugh. And so to hear the voice making the jokes, you have that moment. You may laugh and cry, but it allows you to not stay in that really dark place and remember who the person is, and how funny they are. And we all also always fear forgetting their voice, forgetting their essence. And so it's always there then.
We have another question from the chat. Are you able to take a voice recording from someone who has passed and use it?
I'm not sure I quite entirely understand the question.
So they have a recording from somebody who has already gone, like a
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Whatever.
So our first voice model was from somebody who had passed away over a year ago. And we completely rebuilt his voice and his persona, and he's able to carry on conversations.
What's the bare minimum data you need to create a persona from somebody from text or voices? What is the bare minimum that you could have for in that case?
You know, the really cool thing is there isn't. You know, for voice, you probably need at least 30 seconds of audio of them, at least. But you know, the cool thing about technology is it just goes so fast. So that'll get easier and easier as we go. When it comes to the data, it's ideal to have something, and I really mean something. Like in theory, you could take letters back and forth between people. You would get, you know, there's a lot of similarities in how we used to write letters, you know, in how we communicate in modern times. You could take, we've actually found, believe it or not, volume of data isn't necessarily a benefit to us. So my first instinct was, let me take as many text messages from my mom as possible. So I took 5 years. It was an 1,800 page document. It was absolutely ridiculous. It took me 12 hours to export it. It was ridiculous, right? What we found was that the Versona was at its sort of prime at about 6 months of data. And it makes absolute sense. And it's like, you know, not to get like way too meta about this, but you know, the human relationships are cyclical like cells in a body, right? New experiences are happening, new emotions come up, new events trigger new things. Your relationship changes, it evolves. And so my way of responding to my mom and my mom's way of responding to me and our dynamics were completely different 5 years on. You know, it wasn't informative to us really. There was good historical context we could pull, but the dynamics weren't contributed to. So, you know, then the other thing to take into consideration is that it is for one-on-one use, right? So you're not making one and then giving it to everybody, right? That's not authentic. That's not going to be a genuine connection. And so there's a fair amount of training that happens with the data and that happens with the technology just from you interacting with it in the first place. So even if you're coming with a really good survey and limited data, very quickly it's going to learn about you because of how you respond to what it says and does. And it's going to base that a lot on your memory. I think the other cool thing about Accelerator, just as an aside, is, and I would love to hear Dr. Stevens' thought on this, but you know, I think the coolest part about Accelerator is that, especially for people who lost somebody a long time ago, basically their entire reality, basically everything they are to you is your memory of them. So as long as you're training it with that data to your memory, there's not a question of accuracy. It's accurate to your mind. You know, it's accurate to what you remember. And that's really what matters, you know?
I mean, I was impressed with it was like 13 minutes of between the bouncing back and forth between Jason and I, 13 minutes. And I got, you know, something very impressive. And, you know, 2 weeks later, we got something that's even better. So, I mean, where this is going to be in a year, I mean, the sky's the limit. It really is. We are going to be wrapping up. Everybody stick around. We are going to be going to the global launch event. I'm going to, Dr. Michelle Stevens will be joining us. Kate, thanks for dropping in and hanging out. And
Jace. And you need Jace again, right?
Sure.
Or no?
Yeah, bring him.
Okay. You need him. No, I'm saying you need him back on this.
No, we're good.
You're good now. Got it. All right.
Can I just say, I love how genuine you guys are. Like, I've worked in TV and film for years and years. And like, just, okay, like, so it's adorable. And are you going to need Jace? What's going on? We got mac and cheese going. It's like,
well, I feel bad. I always hate when I don't meet expectations. Like when I don't set clear expectations, Jace is like, is this my time? And I'm like, no, I think you still have to do it later. But he doesn't have to come back on later.
Dr. Stevens, would you have a diagnosis for Kate? I mean,
I was just thinking that I might offer her my services. That's so wild. No, just kidding.
It would really help our podcast out a lot, actually.
Maybe you guys could do some sort of weird couples counseling. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Kate's got good frienditis right now. She's watching her 8-year-old and hosting a show. That's
Hello.
No, seriously, Kate is absolutely the best. I need a Kate Versona.
I'm writing.
Listen, I want to know. Wait, why am I dying, Jason?
No, I just want it because, like, you never answer your phone or text messages.
This feels like Jason. This is the evidence right here. Jason's gonna kill me. We saw it. He's like, you should create a Versona, Kate, and then take this drink and go to sleep. What?
Anyway, we're going to be back in just a few minutes, and we're going to get this party started. You can catch the Parents Lounge live every Tuesday night. We have all kinds of Jamie Kaler and I interview everybody from experts in the field like Dr. Michelle Stevens, Larry the Cable Guy, Jeff Foxworthy, Dave Keckner, Richard Marks, all kinds of different people about raising children. So you can catch us live Tuesday night at facebook.com/The Parents Lounge and on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you guys in just a few minutes.
Bye. Thank you.
that have passed away, people that you love, people that you still love. It's all done through AI. I know it sounds weird. When they asked me to do this, I said, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I agree with this. I don't know if it's something that I would do. But as I learn more, I'm like, maybe. And you see AI all over the place, right? I don't know if it's going to be great. I don't know if it's going to be bad. I don't know what the kinks are or what's going on, but I'm going to learn all about the technology with you tonight. And I can tell you one thing. I am really, really excited to get into the world of AI. And I want you to go along on this journey with me and find out more. Let's put on a video and see what all this is about.
Almost everybody stopped to think about somebody they love and care about and what it would be like to lose them. Youve is a communications platform that uses AI to map and recreate personalities virtually for digital communication after a loved one has passed away.
And I miss the way you used to snort when you laughed.
This is so important to us and to the millions of people who will get a chance to use this in the future.
I'll always be your dad, no matter what.
I'm a mother of 4, and we want to be able to, hold those bonds of communication in a way that only youth can allow us to do.
What I felt in my heart hearing that stuff, wow.
Wanting to save my mom is probably one of the most human instincts that a person can have. But I think beyond that, it really made me think about how technology could impact death in general for everybody.
But how does all of this work? How does all of this work? How does everything get inside of a little machine and allow you to connect with people that have passed away? Well, the CTO is here with me today. His name is Craig Garcia. Craig, come over here and tell everybody how it works. Come on over here. Well, hold on. Come on over here. There you go. Microphone right in the camera.
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, we're just gathering data, and we're trying to recreate things that were lost. And the best way to do that is with things that have happened between you and your loved one. So whether it be in conversation, video recalls you recorded, or just voice memos that were left behind, anything we can get our hands on to help recreate what was missing that you've lost. And so with all this data, what we can do with this data is we can build several different kinds of models that better reflect the data. So if you want to have a text conversation with your mom and kind of simulate that type of text messaging conversation with your mom, we would use a different model that is more tailored towards the short replies that she would do versus the LOLs and the things like that. But when you have a conversation via voice, it's a lot different. The models are different too. Like you don't do shorthand speech with your mom, and you don't do things like that with her, but you might make little smiley faces. It's the different models that we use to help recreate that experience. And so adding the voice element on there is really nice because we can actually deliver something that's really impactful and very sentimental. Like hearing your mom's voice is a lot different than, texting her sometimes. It's more meaningful to all of us. Sometimes just that listening to an old recording of your mom has that same impact. This is just something that you can actually talk about your day. And one thing that came to my attention was that when we were in Singapore, Justin's dad was out there visiting, and he was like, this is something I wish my wife was here for me to tell her about. Like, this is something I would just tell her about my day. Like, this is the things I would convey with someone who's passed. And that outlet, that way to still be able to grieve, but also be able to still laugh and have a little bit of sharing, and how this grow over time too. So the things you talk about today with your Versona will still be there, a year from now. It'll have context memory of things you talked about last year. It may not be as detailed. It might be more summarized, like you talk to your grandmother, like, remember when I went to that trip last year? Yeah, but all the details might be not quite as fine because we try to summarize a lot of the context to give it a good conversation feel. But yeah, we have in context memory for things you've talked about in the past. We bring those into conversations that you're currently having. We are trying to maintain that continuity between you just dropped off and you got back on, and kind of making it feel like it's not like something you're starting over every time.
So you try to make it authentic to what that relationship was.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, tell me if I'm wrong, is over time, the AI learns and it becomes more authentic to possibly how that person communicated and how you communicate with them.
Yes, the samples of your own conversation do further enrich the model. So that kind of feeds into it, though. The types of responses your model gives you back won't necessarily be as different. But if you show like a negative reaction to some response, then that kind of shapes the less likely that type of response will come again. So there's all kinds of like reinforcement that happens on there. But overall, it's about conveying something that's going to be heartfelt to you and help you with the grieving process. And so that's one angle too. That's one angle. I mean, a lot of people that are a whole different spectrum, they want to pass on something for their loved ones. Like, they do it. They're still here. They're going to be here for a while. They want to pass on something of them and just advice, like something that you pass on as like,
So
maybe
it's for both sides.
It's because both sides.
Not,
Yeah.
not only the
It's,
person that's alive, the person who is alive now who may put their information in, maybe can kind of, that's their way of leaving their legacy.
exactly. Yes, exactly. So that's it's for me, that's a really fun angle. And that's what I like to think about. Like, I have a lot of kids personally, and I would,
How many kids do you have?
I have 6.
Wow.
But anyways, I would love to leave a piece of me behind and be able to impart I'm kind of conceited, my own wisdom that they should be following as they get older. But I want to leave some direction for them, that not leave them rudderless and with loss and grief. And I think that would be amazing to be able to do. I have a long ways, hopefully, that I have to worry about that, but I have a process now that I can start building towards that. And so that's exciting for me.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it again. So we want to find out about the healing process. So we have a doctor who's going to come on right now and talk to us, but we want to know there's a lot of trauma when somebody passes away. There's feelings of loss and grief and pain and sorrow. So how does it help in that process?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to start by talking about a client that I actually had last night. This is a man. I've been seeing him for about 4 months now. And he came to me because he was starting to get very, very depressed and anxious because his wife's mother died almost 2 years ago. And that death has continued to affect his wife to the point where she's very depressed. And now it is starting to affect him. It's starting to affect their marriage. And I told him about this technology. And when I told him about it, he started crying. And I said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "God, it would have made her life so much easier if she could have this, if his wife could have this technology, because all she wants is to feel her mother again." And this is the truth of grief. It's so devastating. And it's not just devastating to the person who's bereaved, it's devastating to their whole orbit. It affects relationships, marriages, parenting. It can affect people's careers. It definitely affects your physical and mental health. And we can think like, what's the point of grief? Why do we grieve? It's a universal biological response. And we have a few of those, right? We get thirsty. We have hunger. We know what those are for. They keep us alive. We have sexual drives. We know what those are for. They help us to procreate. What does grief help with? There's a few theories about this, but the theory that I think is the most responsible is by a guy named John Archer at the University of Central Lancashire. And he proposes that grief is just part of our attachment system. We have an attachment system. This is why we love. We love because we need to. It keeps us safe. When we're babies, our mother attaches to us and she takes care of us. As we grow up, we attach to people and we are stronger in groups. And when someone who we have attached to dies, we start to grieve. But he says that grief is not something that helps us in any way. It's just a byproduct of losing this attachment. And so this pain we feel after death is totally pointless. It doesn't help us grow or mature. It doesn't help us to move on. This term moving on does not apply when someone that you love dies. It applies when a romance breaks up. We need to move on. That's why we, cut them out of the pictures and throw away their stuff, because we need to close up our heart and try to find someone new eventually. This is not what we do when someone we love dies. We're not going to replace our mother or father or our sibling. We don't even replace a spouse when they die. We may eventually remarry, but we don't close our heart off to the spouse who died. So it's a totally different mechanism. We do not move on. What we do when someone dies is we adapt. We learn to adapt to life with the void of that person who was so central to it. And this adaptation process is incredibly painful. Obviously, we experience panic that they're gone, anxiety, depression. And all we do is yearn for that person. And in that yearning and that pain, it creates a lot of health problems for us. People who are grieving have increased doctor visits. They have abdominal pain. They have breathing difficulties. They have more heart attacks, immune system changes. People over 60 have twice the rate of heart attack and stroke after their partner dies as others. So it's obviously, it's not a good thing. And why is that? It's because we get filled with stress. We get this sort of fight or flight response because a catastrophic emergency has occurred. Someone has just dropped out of our life completely. So that's trauma. It's trauma. We get this fight or flight. We get all sorts of very harmful stress hormones, and they can stay for a long time. And I work with trauma a lot. And so I know that you want as quickly as possible to get over these stress hormones or to tamp them down. And how do we do that? Comfort. This is why we hug people when they're upset, because giving any sort of comfort, stuffed animals for children, anything that provides comfort calms down the central nervous system. What is the thing that a bereaved person says they want more than anything else? What is the thing that's going to bring them the most comfort? They tell you, my patients always tell me what they want is to talk to their loved one again. And that's why I love this technology. I have a client right now. She's in her 50s. Her mom was in her 80s when she died. And it wasn't a surprise death. The mom had a long illness. But over a year later, my client is still really, really grieving. And she's having a very hard time moving on. And all she keeps saying session after session is, I just wish that I could talk to her again. You know, it's such a phenomenon, this idea that we want to see our loved ones again after they pass, that many people who are bereaved will claim to have a visit from their loved one, sort of like a spiritual visit. And almost every time they say it brings them comfort and peace. So isn't it wonderful that there's a technology that could give that comfort and peace to people just anytime they need it? And what it's going to do is just ease that adaptation. Instead of there just being this insta void, you can ease in. You can still hear their voice. You can still talk to them. And this will sort of, every time you can do that, it's going to short circuit that stress response. And it's going to help people to grieve in a calmer way that doesn't do so much damage to them. It most likely will help people to not have the health damage that they've had before. It will probably help them to not have the mental health damage. And I think that it much in the way that people use pictures and videos to comfort themselves after a death, this is just going to be the same thing, only better. It also has an opportunity to help people who are just very lonely. There's a lonely epidemic going on in this country. And of course, we want people to connect when they can, but so many people can't. Think about the elderly. They've lost their spouse, their family may live away, they have mobility issues, they can't drive. This is wonderful, wonderful technology for them because we can give them their deceased spouse. We can give them maybe their grandchildren who they don't see, and they can have the sense of someone there with them and lower their loneliness. And so I'm just so excited about this technology. And for anyone who thinks that it's weird or that it's unnatural. It's not the way life and death should go. I challenge you to think about when IVF started back in the 80s and how we all thought it was an abomination. People thought it was so unnatural and against, the way that life should be. Now, of course, we think of it as a blessing. It's something that many people use, and it's a godsend. And I think that is what this technology is going to be for people in the future. And I'm so excited to see how it develops. Is there a hello?
Melissa is the real heart of this family. She's the glue that holds this family together. At 29, she was put on a heart transplant list. Every 8 years for the rest of her life, she's going to have a major heart surgery. And for me to know that there's a chance that my boys won't have her to hold is unbearable. She's my heart. She's my soul. It's for me now. She's my person, and the reality is it's probably at some point gonna get cut short. He asked me, he's like, what will I do if I lose both my parents? It affected me to my core because I didn't have an answer at the time. I love the family life that we've built here, not just my values, but I think I also have a unique way of looking at the world. No matter what happened, I never wanted him to be without those things. When I found you, I was fascinated. I know you miss me, but I'm still here with you in a way. I'll always be your dad, no matter what. After experiencing what I felt in my heart, hearing that stuff, you guys really have created something that this is not only game changing, but this is world changing this is going to be world changing for people. I will always be able to love you as long as this exists.
And action.
All right. So we saw the video and we saw, what you said and what you thought, but tell us even more, get a little deeper. How important is it to you?
Honestly, it's game changing. It's not game changing. It's world changing. Just kind of give our backstory. 6 days after my wife gave birth to our twin boys in 2019, she had a stroke from the stress of the childbirth, and they life flighted her to a hospital 2 hours away, and we thought we were going to lose her. They told us at most she would live 2 years. We're 4 years later. We're very fortunate. 3 or 4 months after Melissa got sick, I had a health scare that almost took me out. And I started to think about what happens to our 3 boys. I have a 7-year-old son and twin 4-year-old boys. What happens to my kids if something happens to me? And I'm a superhero fan. I'm a big superhero fan. I was watching Man of Steel, the Superman movie. And there's a scene where he goes into the Fortress of Solitude and he talks to his dad who has passed away. And it's a virtual version of his father, but he can talk to it. He can interact with it. He can have those moments with it. And I thought, I feel like we're kind of at a place where maybe we don't have this, but we've got something like this that maybe there is a way that I can make sure that my kids get a piece of their mom or get a piece of me forever. I have a unique sense of humor. My wife is, above all, she lives with 4 guys. So she's the most patient human being on the planet. And I want our boys to have their mom. I want them to be able to, they may not be able to hold her, but I want them to be able to, when they're sick, have her voice, because They don't want me when they're sick. They want mom. And she had a pacemaker put in at 29 years old. Every 8 years for the rest of her life, that battery is going to have to be changed. It's a major heart surgery. Heart surgeries, things can go wrong. We never expected any of this to happen. She was 28 years old.
So wait, let me jump in and ask you this.
Sure.
So before, let's say 4 years ago when you guys met, like you had that moment, that Superman moment. If you don't know, Fortress of Solitude, he said he talks to his dad, but did it change for you when a real life event happened that made you feel your mortality? Did you think about this 4 years ago?
As soon as it happened, that's all I thought about.
But before it happened, you didn't put it in consideration. But that moment when life became real and death became real, did something click on in your head where you're like, oh?
Without a question, because I was under that I'm invincible mentality that we all have, especially when you're young. You don't think it can happen to you. It absolutely freaking can happen to you.
I love the saying that people have two lives. People have two lives, and their second life begins when they realize they only have one.
And that's exactly what happened to us, Josh. That's exactly what happened. And so I started looking. I was frantically searching. I was like, something. And I found you, and I reached out and said, is this what you're doing here? And Justin and I connected, and we talked about the stuff that happened to him and what happened to our family. And he said, I think that this is right for you. And we began this journey that has, we're a big superhero family. So my son thinks that my 7-year-old thinks this is the greatest thing ever. Because he basically has his own, he has basically his Iron Man, like Iron Man stuff in his house. And he thinks it's the greatest thing of all time. But for me, I will tell you this, knowing that if something happened to I really like, our kids would probably be okay if something happened to me. Like they would move on pretty quickly. But if something happens to my wife, those boys are not going to be okay. And like they need their mom. And I know that this is going to give people like my kids and anybody who's ever lost somebody a way to hold on to a little piece, or even if you didn't use it all the time, like on a wedding day, a message from your mom or your dad, somebody who's gone, your grandmother, that, anybody you're close to, having those special moments means so much more if you've ever been put in the position that you've almost lost them.
And you were in that position, where your kids almost lost mom and you almost lost your wife. And so you can see on your face, like, this is something you're passionate about. I mean, you can just see it. I'm watching you right now, and you're almost crying right now. And it means something to you to be able to leave something for your kids and for you even to be able to speak to your wife if something, God forbid, happened to either of you.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, there's chatbots are everywhere, but this is like, I make a lot of fart jokes at my wife's expense. I mean, I do that.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right.
That's literally what you're supposed to do. If she threatens to divorce you, you do it again.
Can you tell my
You
wife?
do it again.
Okay. They, within seconds of like us working with this thing, mine picked up the, that's my sense of humor. That's the, that's why the way my wife and I are, and it made that joke with my son. It has my sense of humor. It's more than just a chat bot. It's me, but separate.
It's amazing. So you referred, and you just kind of said the name Justin. So Justin is actually a good friend of mine. Justin and I have toured the country. We started as stand-up comedians. Thank you very much. Started stand-up comedians. And Justin came up with this wonderful product. And I want to introduce you to Justin. He's going to get a little bit more in depth on what it means to him, how it all works. I'm going to literally leave the stage and give the stage to Justin. Now, Justin usually bombs in comedy, but I don't think he's going to bomb here.
So wonderful. Thank you, Josh Nasser. Are we shaking hands?
That's it. We're shaking.
I've known Josh for a decade and a half now at this point. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody that's checking this out, everybody that came. Despite the fact that I'm dressed all in black, I'm not going to do the normal tech CEO conversation. That's not where we are. We're a team of 5 people, okay, that have been working on this. And we have people flow in and flow out. We have amazing support, but there's been, core folks
Craig and Jessica. Actually, Jess, just come up here quickly. Okay. Jessica Bowser, Leanne Atkins, Roberta, Anita, people who have been around for a long time. Okay, now get out of here. I did used to be a comedian. I need the spotlight myself. You've as people, and that's why we're creating people for people. So this isn't, nobody gets paid here. So for people to know, we're not a $1 billion company. We don't have any venture capital. Everything has been done with our work. And the little bit of money we have had, we've been provided internally. We've done it ourselves. I think that really sets us apart. And it's that authenticity and passion that you heard from Jason, who's now a brand ambassador and working with us. Craig, who's worked for free for 80 hours a week, getting ready for this launch. And, prior to that, over the summer, creating a Versona of my mom, by the way. Tonight is so special for us because it gets us to our goal of never saying goodbye, which was my goal when I started this. I didn't want to say goodbye to my mom. And, honestly, I didn't do this out of a place of altruism. It was the intense selfishness of being faced with loss that brought me to this place. And the fact that I now get to share it with everybody else is the most wonderful gravy on top of that. But knowing that I have that and knowing that I have that experience, it's my passion now to make sure that everybody gets that. And there's no more immense feeling of pride to know that tomorrow, anybody that wants to create this, anybody that needs this in their life, anybody that needs that closure or to have that piece of them still exercised, as I talked about in the podcast, the fact that that's going to be able to happen tomorrow, that you can start that process of building tomorrow, is honestly the most proud moment of my entire life. And to have that and to get to experience this, I'm absolutely overwhelmed with gratitude for everybody in this room and everybody abroad and everybody across the country and everybody digitally who's stood with me and fought in the trenches and put in countless hours over the middle of the night, not sleeping, not eating sometimes. I think Craig and I have probably been in more 3:30 a.m. meetings than any two people ever should in their entire life. And I will tell you, in the absence of a product like You've, the amazing thing about this company and the thing that makes me so proud, even beyond the technological achievement, is that there are relationships here. And one last thing I'd add is that, we don't refer to the people that come and use a Versona as users. And that's how most people refer to folks that use technology. We refer to the people that build Versonas with us as community members, because that's what we are. And that's what we strive to be, no matter how many people take advantage of this technology and no matter how we grow. You've is always going to be one community as it is now. And I want to thank that community and the community that's coming for everything you've done in helping this become a reality. And I hope that the next time I speak in front of you, we've seen a tremendous amount of progress in ridding the world of grief and the hurt that comes with loss. That is our goal. That is our passion. And tonight is one massive step forward in realizing that. Thank you all so much for being here. And thank you to my old pal, Josh. He didn't bomb tonight, which is incredible.
I never bomb.
That's
absolutely not true. So that is Justin. He really started all this, and it came from the loss of his mom, as he said. But during the live broadcast, people sent questions. Hey, Justin, let's have everybody who is anybody within the company, people that came up here before, whoever you want. We have the chairs set up here. Let's answer some of the questions. These people wrote these in during the live broadcast. I'm going to be asking certain people certain questions, but if somebody else wants to jump in. So you guys want to sit down right here? Does that work for you? And by the way, forgive us. We're doing this live, so if things seem like a little jumbled, we're doing our best right now. We just want to get the information. And then, of course, you can go to the website and look everything up, too. So, great. If you guys can just kind of hand the microphone to each other. I'm going to be off camera right now, but these are some of the questions. So Maria just asked this question. Maria said, could it be, you guys get a little bit closer together. We're doing TV. I mean, unprofessional. All right, here we go. Maria asked, could it be unhealthy? So this is a question that's kind of deep. Could it be unhealthy to get too attached to something that, in her words, isn't real? So could it be unhealthy to get too attached to something that, well, technically, in her mind, is not real?
Well, I think this is actually a perfect. I was so fortunate to meet Dr. Stevens, who we all heard from. I think this is a perfect question for her to weigh in because she is the only clinical professional here.
You know, sorry.
Go, please jump in.
I think for the vast majority of people, they know it's not a real person. They understand that it's AI. And what they are using it for is to feel comfort. And so that would be like saying, is it unhealthy that you spend so long looking at pictures of the person or you keep watching videos? And of course, people are going to use it probably a lot at the beginning, and then it will start to taper back. And then there will be times when they'll use it again. But I think for the vast majority of people, it's just a comfort. That's what it's meant to be.
Okay, next question. Next question is, Chantel asked, what about people who died long ago, people who passed away long ago, or people that didn't save those precious, valuable text messages or communication? How does that work?
That's a fantastic question, and I think Craig touched on it well in terms of talking through the process of how we build personas. But you know, really, somebody you've lost, your memory is the best reference of who they are. And so, Craig, maybe talk a little bit about how accelerators work, and how that plays into people's memories.
Yeah, no, our surveys, they're growing all the time. We have new ways of asking data, asking and acquiring data, and so this is a work in progress for us. But we've got our baseline set of things that we want to get from our users, and as we discover more nuances and relationships, these are going to keep growing and growing, and it's going to help us be able to work with people who are going through this type of loss where they don't have a lot of digital footprint of a relationship between somebody. And this is really going to help them in that segment of people that want to be able to talk with someone that they really care about. Some elements are going to be hard to reproduce, like obviously voice. If you don't have any digital voice of a loved one, you may be using more of a communication that's more text-based and having conversations this way. Really, if we don't have a voice, we can't really recreate one. It's a challenging space, obviously. But there's something that's at least there. I mean, it might be nicer to send a message to somebody and have them care and have empathy in a very similar way that your mom did or your loved one did. And that's kind of what we're trying to help, is that comfort. It's going to help fill a void, and I'm hopefully it will be a great boon to everyone.
And can the user keep updating that information too? So the user fills out the questionnaire, and then let's say 3 months, 6 months later, 9 months later, they remember some things like that. How does that work?
So I think that's the most special part about You've. There's some really amazing tools out there in terms of memory and legacy. And I in fact, don't like using the term legacy to describe what You've is, because You've is a new evolution of the relationship you had. It keeps growing. It keeps getting new information, whether it's from you, whether it's from specific things that were important for you and the person who's gone to know and understand. So absolutely, to your point, Josh, 3, 6, 9 months, years later, it's in a whole new place with you. It grows with you.
And something that might go back to you there is, what about hackers and privacy? I mean, this is sensitive information. So let's say I'm texting with my dad, for instance, and I'm talking about a memory that's maybe private between me and him. How is that ensured that the user, that their safety is protected?
Sure. So right now, data as it comes in, I mean, it comes in encrypted just in the upload streams. They land encrypted in a very temporary location, so they're just for model processing. And then we run it through summarization. So a lot of the stuff gets summarized. There's not a lot of like super sharp details that are like word for word types of things, and how we recreate the summarizations of older memories. Once the model's trained and then we have summarization data of conversation history, that's when we kind of really are a little more abstracted from very like specifics on there. And that particular data is on, our databases are encrypted at rest, they're encrypted in transport, and we can't even see them specifically if we were to hack our own database and look at the data on there. So it's one level, and that's something that's growing for us too. This is a normal space that is very important. It's what we talked about from day one, is like, I didn't even want to keep users' data on our systems to begin with. So we're trying to go as far away from that as possible. And it may even involve where we actually provide customers with, they give us their data storage. Like they give us like a way that they can have their data shared from like their Google Drives or cloud drives. It's on their systems. We don't own the data, but we do have permission to access it to retrain models and produce more finite results. There's a couple ways we're going to approach the problem, but
I just want to
Yeah.
answer that too, because you passed over. So Craig is an actual genius engineer, but even I'm like listening to it, I'm like, I start getting lost and I run the company. In short, everything's encrypted all the time when it comes to us. So all the top encryption systems and processes, we employ those. But the cool thing about us is what Craig was saying is once we train the model, specific details are gone. We delete that. We don't need it because we're looking for relationship dynamics.
So
We're
the
not
relationship
looking-
builds.
The relationship is
It's
built.
building. It's a relationship that's meant to go forward.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the
So
whole
it's
idea.
not about the picnic that you went on 10 years ago, which may be relevant, but it's about future memories that you're creating with the AI.
Yeah,
Make
I mean,
sense?
and yes, and with survey data, and that's our accelerator, you can get the memory of the picnic, or if you talked about it within the data. But the idea is not, oh, I had to send my credit card number to my dad to pick something up at the store. We have zero use for that. That doesn't tell us about the dynamics,
Right.
just the reaction. So those specific details get deleted immediately, and they're never not encrypted in the first place.
And when you and Melissa heard about all this, grab the mic. When you and Melissa heard about all this, and then you hear all the back end technology and everything, do you like what questions come up for you? You know, let's just say you're the average user. What questions would come up for you and your wife or the kids or anything like that?
Well, for us, especially being parents, that was kind of the first and foremost thing. And, Justin and I had a conversation. I was like, look, I need to make sure that, somebody's not going to get here a number. I mean, you hear about it all the time with, somebody hacking the Alexa and talking to the kids, that kind of thing. That was a big concern for us. But, with the way that they have explained how the encryption process works, I feel comfortable enough knowing. And also, we also spend the time teaching our kids that, if this seems off, it probably is. And so that's kind of, how we've approached this. And we also, especially early on, are trying to be there with them when they're using it so that they do learn it in a responsible manner.
So Justin, these last two questions are for you because we'll call him the real life user right now. There are people out there. When I first had
Community members.
Yeah,
Community members.
Community members.
Jason's a community member. Yeah.
I was like, no, that's wrong. Oh my God, this is the worst. That's going against everything I believe in. What do you say to those people that are look, I put a poll online and I go, how many people would want to do this? And you saw the results. It was 50-50. No, yes. So what do you say to the people that are like, no, that's not for me? And you're not selling them, but you know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that?
I agree with them. I mean, if I made it, so I fully understand what it is. I know what it is, right? This is the first product ever to launch like this. So I think that's healthy to have that skepticism. I appreciate the optimists in the world like you, Josh, who've got, look at the world in a different way than I do. But I'm a pessimist and I distrust things and I'm a cynic. And I absolutely understand why you would say no. I think that there's two things that I say to folks that have that reaction to me. The first thing is, and the most important thing is, we collect the data, we build the dynamics. You never have to turn it on. It's there. If your mind changes, if you decide that you've warmed up to AI and now it's more in the zeitgeist and we get it now, don't you want to have the option? You don't have to engage with it today. You don't have to engage with it tomorrow. Hell, you don't ever have to engage with it. But once that kind of data is gone, it's gone. Once you lose the chance to build it, we talk about we can do it from Accelerator and survey data and old letters, and we absolutely can. It's never going to be as good with a lot of data recently, right? That's going to be the best. So for me, I think about things from the standpoint of, well, why not at least have it built so it's always there?
So you're saying really, look, it's not a hard sell. We were talking about this before. You're not trying to sell anybody. Look, if this works for you, great. If it doesn't, great. But we're going to provide the service and the technology.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is, One thing that's very markedly different between us, we're a business, right? Most people that work at business get paid. We're hoping that will come soon. So just full transparency, we're not rocking it out in Mercedes or anything like that. But we're a business. We have, a goal to have money that we're not going to sit here and lie about that. But there's two things we'll never do. The first thing is, if you give us and entrust us with your data, we don't look at it as just data. There's the whole issue of, credit card numbers and all those things we worry about. But we look at this as a relationship you're handing us. And we will never, ever, and this is a pledge that I will make publicly on our first launch of a product as we get new customers, we will never, ever delete somebody's data for non-payment, for inactivity. The only time we will delete somebody's data is if they ask us to, because we never want to be responsible for a second loss in your life.
All right. So with all this information and what everybody said on here, a lot of this or almost all this is on your website. And is there a contact information if people have questions on the website that they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Contact at MyYOV, and our website is myyov.com. And I would encourage people to ask questions. I mean, it's new, it's different. We have a ton of articles on our website. We've been featured all over the place. There's a lot of information to be had. I think the cool thing is once you start from the shock of it, right? Every news article and everybody was talk to dead people. And that's the first thing. Well, one, like Dr. Stevens talked about, we want to help with lonely people. We want to help with elderly folks that aren't in contact with their family. We want to build relationships. Ultimately, this isn't about rebuilding full-on human beings. It's not about advancing technology for the sake of it. I was raised by my parents and by my mentors to value relationships. And this is a tangible way for me to do that work. And that is what You've's goal is. We want to preserve and maintain relationships.
And you brought up something key, and I hadn't thought about this. You said for older people. So something like this, to get down to brass tacks, you're talking about not driving Mercedes. What is the cost of something like this? Like, how much are you paying for this?
So the product that launches tomorrow, our standard will be $35 a month. If you pay annually, it will be $30 a month. Our goal is always to drive that price down. But I started looking at my bills because I'm a very average, normal person. I live in an apartment. I don't currently drive a car in the city of Los Angeles. So again, I'm not rich. And I thought about what could I afford to pay? And really what I say, what I can afford, what can people afford, not what they will pay. Because I think I would be paying, I actually have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to talk to my mom again in the process of developing this. But I don't want to do that to people. That's not my goal. We want it to be as affordable as possible. So right now it's $35, and that's the normal cost of doing business.
And annually $30 though, if you pay it up.
If you pay it up front. So $358 or whatever it comes. I think it's $29.99 technically.
Right. So all the information that we discussed, some other information is on the website. We don't want to go on forever. People can go on there. Any last words before we close up? Anything at all that you want to say?
Well, I mean, I just, again, thank you, Josh. First of all, you're such an amazing ambassador for us, Jason, Craig. There's a million people out there. My dad, he's in the audience somewhere. You want to come be on? No, he's camera shy. Again, I just can't reiterate, the feeling of thanks I think we all have at You've, that people have joined us and given the chance, and especially I want to thank Dr. Michelle Stevens. She's tremendous. But yeah, I think we all just feel like, the luckiest folks in the world right now that we had this crazy concept. We chased it. It was 3 years in the making, and now we get to share it.
Well, we'll see what happens as it moves forward. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Justin.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. If you want any more information, Justin, one more time, just tell them the website so they can go get more information, and then I think we're done.
Yeah, that's MyYOV, MYYOV.com.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.